on my coffin. Remember how I died when you started.
I always think it's so funny when people say things like, books are great, but you should really try to have those experiences in real life.
I think the fuck no.
8 phenomenal standalone books that you need to know about. I love standalones. You can dive into it with no strings attached and no need to commit to any big series. Here are 8 of my personal favorite standalone books that I have read and you deserve to know about too. First, I have What Might Have Been, and this is a very unique plot for a romance book. It really feels like it explores the butterfly effect and like the meaning of fate and destiny versus choice. Basically, our female main character is met with a very tough decision that will impact all areas of her life, and we get to explore the outcomes on both sides of that choice. So we explore alternating chapters of parallel realities of what her life would look like depending on what decision she makes. Super fascinating read, super cool concept, and a very quick and fun read. Next, I have a thriller, and that is The Last Mrs. Parrish. This is very similar to the Housemaid series by Frida McFadden. I believe The Last Mrs. Parrish was written first, though, and I personally enjoyed this one a little bit more. Very, very, very similar premise, but I just loved how it was done in this book. I would highly recommend this if you're looking for a fast-paced thriller that you won't want to put down. I will note, though, this is soon to not be a standalone. Book 2, The Next Mrs. Parrish, is coming out later this year. Then I have a romance that I just finished, and that is A Love Letter to Whiskey. This is such a touching book. I will never stop thinking about these characters. I just rated this like 4.5 stars. I might bump it up to 5 stars. It was truly phenomenal. This is like right person, wrong time, The One That Got Away, friends to lovers romance, and oh my goodness, it was beautiful. It had me giggling, it had me in tears. There is so much miscommunication in this book, and I normally hate miscommunication, but this one I didn't mind it. I don't know why. And the ending, oh my gosh, that's all I will say. Then, you guys know one of my favorite books of all time, The 7-Year Slip. I read this book last year and it was an easy, immediate 5-star rating for me. This is so darn good. This is romance with magical realism, and there is friendship dynamics and family dynamics and depictions of grief, and I feel like this book just really had it all, and Ashley Poston's writing is so poetic. This book was beautiful. I still think about Clementine, our female main character, to this day. Next, I have 2 books by the same author, and first is Forever Interrupted by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is another one that really deals with grief, and I actually reread this through my own grieving process just this past couple months, and this book is so gut-wrenching and so heartfelt, very emotional, and so well done. I feel like these earlier Taylor Jenkins Reid books don't often get the hype that they deserve, but they are so darn good. I would highly recommend this book. This was like a 4+ star rating for me. Then one of the Taylor Jenkins Reid books that is in like that Hollywood celebrity universe is Malibu Rising. This book was really great as well. I connected so deeply to our female main character, Nina. Oh my goodness, this is mainly surrounding like friendship and family dynamics. We also get some romance in there too, but this is really just kind of like a general fiction, and it was so good. I will say this book took me a little bit to get into. I felt like it was a little bit slow at the start, but once I was connected to Nina and her character, I just resonated so deeply with everything about her and her struggles and the pressure that she put on herself. I just feel like she was such a beautiful, complex female main character, connected so deeply to her, and I love this book because of it. Next, I have a book that is not talked about nearly enough, and that is Golden Girl by Ellen Hilderbrand. This is basically about a woman who passes away in a hit-and-run accident, and as she's passing away, she's met with kind of like her spirit guide, and her spirit guide gives her 3 nudges where she can interact with her family that she has left behind in her life and kind of steer the trajectory of their life. Alongside that kind of spirituality, magical realism element, we have mystery, we have infidelity, we have romance, we have friendship. There's just so much. There's always something going on. There's multiple POVs in this book, which can be a bit hard to follow, but it is worth it. This book is jam-packed with action and emotion and romance and mystery. Like, there's really something for everybody in this book, and I thought it was really, really good. Last but not least, I have to recommend The Bright Side of Disaster by Catherine Center. If you are looking for something short and sweet, this is the book for you. This book is under 300 pages and reads a lot like a women's fiction with romance subplot. Our female main character is very, very pregnant, soon to have a baby, and she is just left by the father of her baby days before she goes into labor. So she's not only thrown into new motherhood, but thrown into single motherhood, and she's left to navigate that with her community and her friends and her family. There's also a sweet romance in this book, but it definitely reads like a subplot where the main focus is just on her and her life, which I really liked. So those are 8 phenomenal standalone books that I think you need to know about and add to your TBR. What's your favorite standalone book? Comment down below. Let's talk about the 8 books that I would actually reread. I am personally not a rereader. I want to be so bad, but there are so many books that are constantly being added to my TBR that I just don't find the time to reread very often. But these are 8 books that I love so much I would love to experience a second time. First, I have Summer Sisters by Judy Blume, and I actually just recently read this book, and I feel like you could get something different out of this book every single time that you read it. I was so thoroughly impacted by this and the messages about girlhood and female friendship. It was just an absolutely beautiful story with so many different themes and different plot lines throughout it. I love this book, and I feel like I could see myself rereading this in a couple of years. Next, I have Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren, and this is just like a comfort read for me. I don't know, something about the second chance, childhood friends to lovers elements, like I just love that storyline so much, and knowing that I like this book already going into it, I feel like I would just enjoy my time reading it. I feel like I could read it really quickly and just feel like I'm back with family because I love these characters so much. Just a really good comfort read, honestly. That's the best way I can describe it. Then I have Reckless by Elsie Silver, and I am obsessed with this book. This is a 5-star read for me, easily. This is my favorite book from the Chestnut Spring series, and I already want to reread this, and I only finished it last month. I'm actually considering getting a tattoo from this book, and that's how much I love it. Enough said. Then I have The Storyteller by Jodi Picoult, another relatively recent read that was so deeply impactful. This is a historical fiction novel about World War II. Oh my gosh, it was just so good. Then I have another of my favorite books, and that is The 7-Year Slip. Anything by Ashley Poston, I think I would reread because her writing is just so beautiful. Literally, it's like reading poetry. I'm obsessed with her writing, and I feel like you could just appreciate it more and more every time you read it. Then I have Powerless by Lauren Roberts, and this book makes me so excited because this is the first fantasy I've been like super invested in. I honestly have had recent thoughts about rereading this, maybe on audio, before I read the second book. The second book in the series just came out, and I've kind of wanted a little bit of a refresher, and I loved it so much that I feel like I could enjoy it all over again. Next, this one needs very little explanation, but The Nightingale, one of the most impactful books I have ever read, one of my favorite books of all time, if not my #1 favorite book of all time. What more do I need to say? I love this book. Lastly, I have Just for the Summer. This is book 3 in the Part of Your World series, and I read this book as an ARC copy before, like there was kind of a lot of conversation about it, and now that I'm seeing everyone talk about it again, I want to reread it so I can join the discourse around this book. I loved it when I read it. I could see myself loving it all over again, and maybe even more so if I were to read it a second time. Every time I see pictures of someone who has annotated this book, I have remorse that I didn't annotate my copy, so this is definitely on a list to reread potentially soon. So those are 8 books that I love so much that I would consider rereading them, even as someone who doesn't reread books. What is a book that you have on your list to reread? Comment down below.
These are some series I have started but will not be continuing, at least in the foreseeable future. However, do let me know if I'm missing out on something incredible. Number 1 is the Inheritance games. I have read the first 2 books in this series and they're just not for me. I just wasn't really hooked on them. I didn't love any of the characters. Whilst I thought the premise of the whole story was really interesting, I found it really hard to get through and honestly just had to force myself through it. I don't know why, just something about the writing didn't have me hooked, which really surprised me. The Crave series by Tracy Wolff. I read the first book when I was 17 and absolutely loved it. And then I picked it up again, reread it this year, and then read the second book in this series, and it just didn't quite hit the same. I don't know whether that's just because my taste has changed over the time, or I'm just not really into these kind of books anymore. It was a good time. It was fun. It's just not on my priority TBR anymore. It just didn't quite hit as I hoped it would. The Shatter Me series. This series I was so excited for because there is so much hype surrounding this series, so much love, a massive fan base, and it just wasn't for me. I didn't really, again, connect to any of the characters. I found that there was a lot of plot holes in it. I will say I wish I had read this when I was younger because I think I would have appreciated it so much more. I know it is aimed at a younger audience. I read up to book 4 because I know that Ignite Me is the most hyped, so I was you know what, I'll get to there, I'll see if I still am not enjoying it. And I wasn't. I read a bit of the 4th one and put it down. It wasn't gripping me, and honestly the main protagonist kind of bugged me. And lastly, this book I read years ago and for some reason it just didn't hook me, but I did appreciate the whole magic system, mythical creatures involved in this, and that is the Aragon series. I believe the author wrote this when he was 16, which baffles me, correct me if I'm wrong, but it just didn't quite grip me. I do kind of want to give this another chance, not in the immediate future, but at some point I would like to give it another chance. I read the first 2 books in this series. These are the OG covers, by the way. These are cardboard type situation. I wasn't immediately immersed in the world. Some of my friends absolutely love this, so I'm very tempted to give this another shot, but also very hesitant because I feel like it's just not for me.
Out alive, but I lost it. Said that I was fine, said it from my coffin. Remember how I died when you started walking. That's my life, that's my
10 books I wish I could read for the first time again. These are some all-time faves, and I would do anything to have this first-time reading experience all over again. As always, every single book rec is categorized and linked on my Amazon storefront, so if you want more book recommendation ideas, you can always go check that out. First, I have The Two of Us, and this was an incredibly sweet standalone romance. I do not see this talked about anywhere, and I think it deserves so much more hype. This is a second chance romance with past and present dual timeline, and I love that style of book. I just was completely captivated, rooting for these characters, and I was absolutely in love with their story. Then I have Powerless by Lauren Roberts, and I included this one because this is the first time I felt fully entranced and captivated by a fantasy, and that was so exciting for me. As someone who's wanted to be a fantasy reader for so long, that's the first time I was in the middle of a fantasy and thoroughly enjoying it, and that was really exciting for me. Then I have my two favorite books from the Chestnut Spring series. So we have Heartless, which is a single dad, grumpy sunshine nanny trope. I love Cade, and I love Willa. She's the strongest female main character. I adore her. Then I have Reckless. This is book 4 in that series, and oh my gosh, Theo and Winter, both of them. I love them. I can't say enough great things. I'm obsessed. Then I have Magnolia Park's Into the Dark, and no book has made me feel the way that this book has made me feel. I was laughing, I was crying, I was happy, I was sad. I had all the feels and all the emotions. Oh my gosh, I just wish I could read this again for the first time. Then an old fave that I don't talk about enough anymore, The Wish by Nicholas Sparks. I love this book. This was like my original book recommendation when I first started Book Talk. I'm still obsessed with it. Nothing has changed. This book still makes me cry. I still think about this book. I love this. And another favorite of mine that I haven't talked about in a while, The 7-Year Slip. This book just felt like pure magic. And I wish I could experience that for the first time all over again. Then I have The Last Mrs. Parrish, and I'm super excited because the next Mrs. Parrish, the sequel to this one, is actually coming out this month. So it's almost like I get to read it for the first time again. I just thoroughly enjoy this. This is very similar to Frida McFadden's Housemaid series. So if you've read that, very similar plots, but I honestly think I preferred this book a little bit more. Then I have One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is one of the first books that I read in one sitting. I just sat down one day, I think it was like 2 winters ago, and I sat in my bed all day long and I binged this book because it was so good. I was just absolutely captivated. I love Taylor Jenkins Reid writing so much. Last but not least, Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. This is her latest new release and book 3 in the Part of Your World series. I could not have asked for a better ending, and I wish I could see my face and experience it all over again when I was reading the last like 25% of this book. If you know, you know. But I had all the feels. It just was such a feel-good ending. She wrapped this book up absolutely magically. I'm obsessed with her in this series and this writing. It's just amazing. Those are 10 amazing books that I wish I could read for the first time again. What book do you wish you could read for the first time all over again? Comment down below. Here's my July TBR. I have 12 books that I really want to get to in the month of July, and these are the ones at the top of my list. So 5 of these are books that I chose for myself and or are new releases coming out in July, and the rest were actually picked by you guys on my Instagram. So if you participated in that fun poll that I did yesterday, thank you so much. So for the books that I really want to get to, first I have Binding 13. This is for you, Lauren. If you're watching this, Lauren is in my Patreon book club, and she has been hounding me about how I finally need to get to Binding 13. So I'm doing it for you, Lauren. I'm also really excited myself. I can't lie, but this is because Lauren is determined to get me to read this book, and she didn't give up on me. Then, speaking of the book club, I am also reading The Housemaid is Watching. So this is our July book club pick for my Patreon book club. So if you've read this book or are planning to read this book, please, please, please come join the fun. My Patreon is always linked. I am having so much fun in book club. June was our first month, and we're getting ready to do all our live meetings and everything this week, but this is our July pick, so if you want to join us, please do. Then some new releases. I have 1,000 Broken Pieces, and somewhere in my brain I thought this came out in June. I put it on my June TBR. Doesn't come out in July, so we're pushing it to the July TBR. Then obviously Reckless by Lauren Roberts. This is the only fantasy series I have been like insanely invested in as a beginner fantasy reader. I cannot wait for this. I think it's July 2nd, and I am so excited. And then we have Play Along. This is the 4th book in the Windy City series, and if you follow me, you know this is one of my favorite romance series of all time. Super excited for this one. Now let's jump into the books that you guys picked for me blindly on the polls on my Instagram. First, we have The Last Love Note, which I'm actually super excited that this one won the Instagram poll because I've been wanting to read this for so long now and I cannot wait. This book is heavy on grief, and as someone who is newly in the grieving process, I just know this book is going to make me feel all the feels, and I'm very excited. Then you guys picked We Were the Lucky Ones. I'm actually very excited for this one as well. I almost started the Hulu series a couple of months ago and then found out it was a book, so definitely always best to read the book first. So I'm really excited to get to this in July and then watch the show. Then finally, Wild Love. If you follow me, you know I just finished the Chestnut Spring series and I have been on an Elsie Silver kick. So I'm super excited to finally get to this one too. And I have Summer Romance, and I believe this is a new release, and I've seen so many people rave on about this one and I cannot wait to figure out what all the hype's about. Then we have Here for the Cake, and I got an early release copy of this a couple of months ago, and it's just been eyeing me for my TBR because this looks so good, but I've been waiting for the perfect summery vibes, so I'm really glad this won for my July TBR because it feels like the perfect time to read it. Then I have Body Check by Elle Kennedy, and this is actually a re-release of her very first hockey romance novel. I think this comes out in July, but there's like more scenes, more spice, more romance, more of everything. I'm very, very excited. This arc got sent to me for this one, and I can't wait to read this. Lastly, you guys picked 28 Summers for me. This is great. I really have been wanting to read this for the past 2 summers, I believe. I started it last September and it was just too late. The vibes weren't there anymore. So really good that it's on my July TBR this year. So those are the 12 books at the top of my July TBR. What book are you most excited to get to in July? Comment down below. Let's talk about 5 books that I found severely underwhelming. Of course, these are all just my personal opinions, never ever ever any hate to any authors or any readers who enjoyed these books. First, I have The Hotel Nantucket by Ellen Hildebrand, and I went into this book with really high hopes, and maybe it's my own fault that I was underwhelmed, but after reading Golden Girl by her, I loved that book, and then hearing phenomenal things about this, I expected like a mind-blowing story, and I just was a little bit let down. It almost felt like there was too much plot to be enjoying the plot. Like there was so much going on, so many characters that I was almost more confused than I was enjoying the story. Next, I hate to say this, The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I am a Taylor Jenkins Reid super fan. I love her writing so much, specifically her earlier stuff. But The Seven Husbands just wasn't my favorite. I liked the book and I enjoyed the book, but I had seen so much hype around it that I was expecting like a 4 or 5 star read when really it was just like a 3 star for me. Then another hot take, None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. I know so many people were absolutely flabbergasted by this thriller. I was not. I did not have that shock factor. I did not have the wow factor. I was just kind of like, okay. Underwhelmed is really the best word I feel. Sums up my reading experience. Then another thriller series, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. And again, my own fault. I went in with extremely high expectations after what I had heard, and I was just let down. To be fair, I will freely admit I'm not usually a fan of young adult books, and I feel like that was a big part of this. It's just felt a little bit too young for me and a little bit too outlandish at times. I just got bored. Last and definitely not least, a lot of people will be upset with me for this one, A Little Life. This book just wasn't for me. It felt like it was 300 pages too long. It was so slow, in my opinion, and so boring. I'm sorry, I got bored. Those are 5 books that I felt really underwhelmed by. What is a book that you were super hyped to read and then felt a little flat? Comment down below.
Hey man, came all this way, had to explain, direct from Domingo. Kelsey's a friend, she's like my sis, but we...
Cause fuck it, I was in love. So fuck you if I can't have us.
Do you see how he walks kind of weird? You don't think he does? You don't think he does? Like almost as if he's a... See? The mob boss. No, not the boss. This guy.
Yeah, a little more. It's closer. There you go. That's it.
Hang on.
Devils inside you. Don't let 'em out tonight. Like a stand-up guy. Whatever devils inside you. Don't let 'em out tonight. I tell them it's true. I heard that you're an actor, so act like a stand-up guy. Whatever devils inside you. Don't let 'em out tonight.
So I've been reading all the comments on my Smosh video, and it's left me with some more thoughts. How much are they crying to need a crying bath? This is not a question. I'll be honest, I thought if any of them had a degree, it would be in theater. Again with the crying bathroom. And those two in particular, do I need to call social services for them? This one with the emotional support Amanda part, is everyone named Amanda just someone's emotional support dog? Because I too am that.
That was horrible. That was awful.
Oh my god. Okay.
Oh, hey, why are you doing? Don't do that. Don't do that.
She's literally addicted to doing that.
I hate you.
Clear bag in the stadium. You can only bring in a clear bag in the stadium. You can only bring a clear bag into the stadium. What do I have to tell you? Arms out.
Ma'am, I have a sheer bag. Is that okay?
Sheer is not clear. Sheer is not clear. Sheer is not clear. I have it tattooed right here. Sheer is not clear.
Wait, look directly into this camera with those glasses.
Why? Sheer is not clear.
Do you see?
Clear as my glasses.
It changes your whole head.
One second.
Angela! I'm gonna freaking kill you! Are you kidding me?
How dare you say that was my fault?
What do you mean?
That wasn't my fault.
What do you mean?
Wait, can we do it again?
No, I have to pay money!
That was amazing. Tommy had the...
I picked up a lock by myself. You picked up the gem. You go by myself.
You go. Angela goes, we gotta help him. Yeah, that's not helping him,
That
bro.
wasn't what happened. So many the same shit we...
No.
Oh.
No.
How many of these rounds?
No.
How fucking...
No.
No, I'm actually getting mad.
Oh, no. I saw it.
I know, I tumbled it, but I'm saying you did the same thing before.
I'm saying that was an equal parts movement.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yes, and you pushed out a tower before.
You said someone helped Tommy. You couldn't have helped Tommy.
Oh,
I
I
think I just dried at random.
Oh, my God.
So then I'm gonna add 4 to that.
Oh,
Plus
shit.
16 green,
Wow,
Courtney.
That was
this
a
is
good
so crazy.
move.
This was a great move.
Why do I feel like I'm in Vegas right now?
Oh man,
Oh, seriously?
Like,
I'll be there this
is
weekend.
blackjack.
yeah.
I'll be there this weekend. Courtney, what do you have? You're taking a long time with all those cards.
It's plus 16
Let me tell you a
green.
little story.
Oh, shit.
Oh God.
I love stories, Courtney.
Yeah, wait, story time.
Once upon a time, there was a little card, and she ran all the way out. Which means she ran all the way back in, and then she ran all the way back out.
Plus
And then she
24.
ran all the way back in, and then she ran all the way
Plus
back
26.
out. And then she ran back in, and then she ran all the way back out.
Plus 30.
She ran back in, and then she went wee, all the
Plus
way.
34.
Home, take her home.
Plus 44 cards to keep.
What do you mean?
Unless you can do something, you're drawing 44 cards,
I don't.
which might be the whole deck.
I don't have to listen to any of this. I don't have to take this from anybody. But it's looking like I'm gonna have to.
That's the game.
And with that,
Isn't it crazy how things can change in the blink of an eye?
That's nuts.
Wow.
Okay, but this honestly was deserved because you were gonna win.
worked hard.
We ripped it away from you. You needed
And
that
you brought
win.
it back.
with a
tried
badass
to get
move.
you.
You can touch it. They're not
This
gonna.
is gonna be so easy.
They're not gonna zap.
Oh.
Put it back.
I know. I did that.
No,
I also did.
I did it
You
first.
look at these.
Wait, you ready for this?
Yay!
Whoa.
married.
Tony Lizard Huss, Tony Lizard Huss.
You ain't got the fairy oats, sir. You clarios.
You heard the Clay Aiken version of that song?
Girl, you think I've heard the Clay Aiken version?
Let me read your poem.
Read my poem.
Oh shit, I'm seeing
What?
plastic.
It's rubber.
All I need to do here is find a vein, so 1 second.
This is smart.
Yay!
I wish we could put the Declaration of Independence in there.